Welcome to Comadres y Comics. Comadres y Comics is a podcast hosted by 3 Latina women.
We highlight the Latinx presence in the comic book industry as creators, characters, and fans.
Join us as we talk chisme, comics, fandom, and beer. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Las Platicas. Who do we have in studio today, Kristen?
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, welcome everybody to another episode of Las Platicas, which is a show hosted by us, Comadres y Comics, where we meet with creators and friends to talk about upcoming projects, events, and all around awesome news in the comic community. Today, so great to once again have Madeleine Holly-Rosing, a TV, feature film, comic book writer, and novelist. Madeleine holds an MFA in Screenwriting from UCLA, where she won numerous awards, as well as the Sloan Fellowship. Madeleine has published a number of short stories, novellas, and a novel based on the Boston Metaphysical Society universe. And today she joins us to discuss her current Kickstarter campaign for Boston Metaphysical Society, Mystery at Pikes Peak, numbers 1 through 4. Welcome back, Madeleine. We're so happy to have you and to talk about this new campaign. And I was just telling Sarah and Jen before you popped on that every time I am reading about your books or your Kickstarters, or we're at cons and you're explaining to me about what the current story is, I get so excited. And it's like, that's right. This book is so awesome. It's really cool and I love it. And so I want you, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar, can you give us a quick summary of Boston Metaphysical Society and then talk a little bit more about Mystery at Pikes Peak and how it fits into the larger BMS universe?
Sure. For those who are not familiar, the overall premise of the series is about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battles supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. We originally started with a 6-issue miniseries with art by Emily Hugh, which is now in what we call Volume 1. And then I did 4 standalone sequels with art by Gwen Tavares, and then compiled them all in what we call Volume 2. And the last standalone sequel was called The Book of Demons, and that kind of I take that back. In the spirit of, was it Spirit of Rebellion or Ghosts and Demons? Even farther back, Scourge of the Mechanical Men, our very first one. It was a Granville Woods and Tesla story, and at the end Tesla ran off to Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs. Because being Tesla, he always, no matter what happens, he kind of lands on his feet. And so by the last sequel, which was The Book of Demons, the team needs to get, the hell out of Dodge because the powers that be are looking for him. And Tesla owes them some favors, so they head out to Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs. So that's how that gets moved along. It was foreshadowed in the original, in Scourge of the Mechanical Men, and then pays off later. So I get to bring him back again because I have a lot of fun. They're like frenemies. All of them. They don't really like him much, but sometimes he's necessary, and sometimes he has to deal with them because sometimes they're necessary.
I definitely got that vibe in the pages that you shared on your Kickstarter, that he was not very well liked by some of the characters.
Yeah, and but it was a lot of fun to bring him back and also use the fact that he actually did have an experimental station in Colorado Springs briefly in real life, and working on wireless technology. So I bring that into it, but there are repercussions for what they do and how that affects Caitlin. And also, there is an explosion and they all think someone's trying to kill Tesla. So there's like a murder plot going on, and Caitlin's dealing with her changing abilities, and then there's all this other stuff going on. So, but what was even more fun is I had to introduce a character by the name of Mai Hui Chow, who is a fictional character from the Great House Chow from California. And in my novel, I had talked about how one of the things I changed in my alternate history was the Chinese Exclusionary Act never happened.
Okay.
And so because of that, the Chinese families were able to invest in the country and build commerce and business and eventually a great house. It's not as powerful, as wealthy as the East Coast or the Midwest, just by virtue it hasn't been around as long.
Mm-hmm.
But their power is rising. And in my novel, Storm of Secrets, on one of the subcommittees in government is the head of House Chow. And so I become kind of interested. And she had a very, very small part. She was just part of this subcommittee. And I thought, this would be really interesting if I expanded on that and what was going on in California at the time. So we're kind of moving across the country. We're starting on the East Coast, mostly in Boston. We were in Philly for a little bit, and then to Colorado. So you get to see some of the Old West, and we'll see where we go from there.
Sounds really good. So this is mostly me, and I was just like, is like Pikes Peak a real place in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And
Pikes
sorry?
Yeah, Pikes Peak is actually a mountain in Colorado.
I had to Google it. So. I wondered the same thing.
Yeah, the real Californian is jumping out of me because I'm just like, geography? I don't know her.
Yeah, and it has a very, very steep incline.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, there was a very particularly designed and engineered railroad engine that could bring you up.
Oh,
that could take you up. And when I brought Danny Rivera on board to do the final 2 issues, I sent her images and I said, this has to be, when you show this train, it has to absolutely be correct, because there's going to be somebody out there who's going to go, no, that's wrong. That's, you can't draw like a regular steam engine, because a regular steam engine would never have been able to get up that elevation. And so, I sent her images and I go like, this has to be exactly what this is supposed to be. and she did it. She did a beautiful job.
No, I love those attentions to details that you put in there. And I always learn, I know a lot of it is also fantastical or reinterpreted, but I always learn something when I'm reading your books. And I'm always, so I'm just so this one I was just is Pikes Peak a real place, or is it inspired by a real place? So thank you for telling me it's a real place.
Yeah, it's a tourist attraction now. You can easily get up there, and the beautiful views. I actually haven't I've been to Colorado Springs, but not up to Pikes Peak.
Very, very cool. But you mentioned that Tesla had a lab there?
Yeah, he did. He had an experimental station there for about a year. And in fact, he was working on wireless technology.
Okay, very, very cool.
Yeah, he was. And also gravity cell batteries, and a couple other things. There was a number of experiments which I actually allude to in the comic, and some of it we get to see a little bit of it. Others we don't, because there's just not time, and nor is it relevant for the story.
Yeah.
But the reason Mai Hui Chow is involved is because in my world, her house and House Astor funded the experimental station.
Oh,
so
okay. That's a good way of tying them in there.
They're the money.
Yeah.
So they get a say in who goes.
Okay. Very cool. So, you mentioned a little bit, but what more themes are you looking to explore this time with Pikes Peak, besides their tumultuous relationship with Tesla?
Um, yeah, I mean, they do have to deal with Tesla's sexism,
Yeah.
Of
which
course they do.
of course they do, which they like pretty much ignore because like he knows where he can complain about it, but he knows where the money's coming from. So there's only so much he can do about it other than grouse about it, and ignore them when he wants to. But also, thing is, I don't want to give away too much.
No,
It's
definitely,
like
completely understand.
almost would be like a spoiler if I said too much because of the build up for the first two issues and the reveal in issues 3 and 4 of why this is all happening to Caitlin and to the rest of the crew and the mysteries they have to solve. So I have a distinct feeling that a few people may be mad at me because even though the arc is finished, there is a conundrum at the end that is not resolved.
Oh, a cliffhanger. I see. That's how you keep people coming back.
Yes.
That's super cool. What kind of historical research went into setting up the story at Pikes Peak in the late 1800s? I love your books because they have a lot of details. So I'm just wondering what kind of research went into that.
I do a lot of Google research, image research. I study the images, and obviously, as I said, I share them with the artists. I have, at home books on Tesla and, just the usual deep dive into secondary and hopefully, primary. We're lucky that nowadays that you can Google and often get into primary sources, particularly images of what, the train, it's called a cog train. What that looked like because there are actually photographs of it, and just paying attention and knowing, you can't put all of it in there because otherwise it's overload for your reader too, and it's not relevant. It's just enough to keep the story going, but there will be little moments that reflect our history that in the first two issues you see and the name escapes me now, the local indigenous people that were basically marched out. And you briefly see that when Caitlin and Alma arrive and Mai Hui takes them into town, and you see the Union, actually the Great House soldiers removing the indigenous population. And the problem, and of course, Alma and Caitlin don't know anything about this. They why is this going on? And Mai Hui's reaction is basically they don't have the political power to do anything about it. And though she has suffered on her own, we're just starting to delve into some of the issues that she and her family have had to deal with. And I know there's a lot more research I want to do on Chinese Americans and things as I delve more into the Great House Chow.
Very cool.
Piggybacking a little bit on Sarah's question about research, I was reading the pages, and obviously the speech and vernacular is of the time. How did you research that? Was there some source that you went to try to get the sound of what even cadence of how speech was back then? That kind of interested me because as I'm reading it and immediately I'm reminded, this happened in the 1800s based on how you're writing their dialogue. So their dialogue, yeah.
Their dialogue. Yeah. I honestly say I did that research so long ago, I don't remember.
So now it just comes to you.
It just,
Yeah.
it's ingrained. It's like Caitlin's speech. And yeah, I have to make certain passes because sometimes when I first write her dialogue, she comes off as too modern American. And then I have to go and like, oh, no, Caitlin doesn't sound like that. So as I go through passes, I make sure, you know, these are people who back in the day spoke in complete sentences and, you know, didn't cut everything, like we're everything down to little sound bites here.
Right.
And these are folks who communicated in cursive and we're just learning. I mean, obviously they had Morse code and telegraphs and fun things like that. But it was a slower pace. So their speech would be a slower pace as well. Yeah, I think that's something I've just ingrained at this point.
Yes, definitely.
And it's such a mood builder for this kind of period piece, because I definitely have read comics where it's supposed to be in a certain either country or time period, but they just write regularly like how a modern English speaker American would speak, and I just read it and I a lot of times don't think anything of it, but then I read your book and I'm like, no, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it actually throws me off when I read stuff that's supposed to be period piece and the language is not period language.
Yes.
And I just go like, oh, okay, I can't read this anymore.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. A very big difference.
It does. And even if you don't get it exact, you do need to use different syntax, different, you know, if someone's more terse, not everyone sounds like an American. That just gets boring.
Yeah.
If everyone sounds like a modern day American.
No. And it's one because like you mentioned also this briefly, because there's also like 100% you can't sound exactly how they sound back then, simply because we like language changes and evolves, and we don't really have a 100% like know for sure how it is that they talk. We just have an idea of how they talk. So if we try too hard, it becomes kind of like boring or like not understandable at all. So there's like this delicate balance of trying to sound old but not too old, but also not too modern, because then it just takes you out.
No, absolutely. When, as you know, I wrote a story for Lady Mechanica, and one of their main characters speaks in Cockney, and I'm not that familiar with Cockney, so did a deep dive into that, and then wrote it as Cockney. But then Marcia, who's the editor, and of course Joe, go through and would modify that because it has to also be understandable. Who's actually reading it, because Cockney is, man, that's tough. If you know, to read it, it's hard enough to understand it just listening. And so when I saw how she had edited mine, I'm like, oh, okay, so you want like a modified version. And so I, you know, obviously took her direction and later drafts did a more, you know, modified version. And sometimes you need to do that in order for your reader to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I mean, Caitlin is not Cockney, she's Irish. So hers is a different thing. But even then, how she would really say things, an Irish girl in the 1800s is different than how I write her, because otherwise it would sound too repetitive. So even, you know, for her, I need to pull back a little bit for the modern reader, just so they have the flavor, the taste that brings them into that world.
Yeah. No, I love that. So in your Kickstarter, you stated that it has been and always will be important to you to write characters who, though they come from diverse backgrounds and have different points of view, are able to work together for the common good. Why is it that concept so important to you as a writer, and in what ways does Mystery at Pikes Peak continue to explore it?
Well, it's not just important to me as a writer, it's important to me as a human being. And that's my philosophy of life, that, there's strength through diversity. And I firmly believe that as a human being. Homogeny is a weakness. Diversity is a strength. And that's my own personal belief. So that's going to reflect in what I like, in what I write.
Right.
Period. In everything I write. But
I appreciate that answer and that take, and it really does make your stories so much more profound and interesting and really meaningful. So thank you for thank you for believing that as a human being
and putting it into practice as well. Yeah.
I mean, yes. I'm certainly not the first one. Gene Roddenberry exemplifies that, and Spock, Kirk, and McCoy.
Yeah.
I took at UCLA. I was forced to take a couple critical studies courses, and one of them almost broke my brain. It's called The Theory of Spatiality. Don't even ask me what it's about. I couldn't tell you. I finished that. I mean, the books we had to read were so dense that, and I'm a fast reader. I comprehend things very, very quickly. It would take me an hour to read one page because I had to read it over and over again just to figure out what they were talking about. There is what's called the Hegelian theory of the triad, which is, if I remember this, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And if you look at it, it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy as characters, which is why you always see threesomes in ensembles and in books and in movies, because that triad plays off one another. And all three of them have their different strengths and weaknesses. And if you look at Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, Kirk was the one who would take advice from both Spock and McCoy and then bring it together to come up with like another idea. And that's what makes a good leader.
Yes.
Is being able to take like, okay, A, B, and you may have C, but then you create D, which is a solution from that. And I think I kind of broke my professor's brain when I started talking about, hey, this Hegelian theory of the triad about characters. And then everyone was going like, oh my God, that's so interesting. She goes, well, what does that have to do with spatiality? Yeah. I don't know. I just want to talk about characters.
You are reminding me of my days at UCLA. I'm just like a lot of theory classes. Oh God, so much theory.
Yeah. Well, that was really my only theory class. The other critical studies, what was it called? It was very interesting. It was about the other and representation, which really opened my eyes quite a bit in the representation and changes in how men are perceived from masculine to what became hyper masculinity in later movies, where 30 years ago men just looked like men. They were nice and muscular and everything, and then we got into the hyper masculinity, which just like
thanks Marvel.
Yeah. Right.
That didn't help. I don't think that helped.
Well, speaking of diversity, we were very excited to hear there's a New Mexican artist, Daniela Rivera, joining the Boston Metaphysical Society team. That's so exciting. Can you tell us a bit more about Daniela and what she's brought to the story?
Sure. Daniela has actually been on my short list for a while for artists. And I started looking at her work a few years back and thought, she's good, but she's not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then when a couple years passed, and then when my other artist moved on, and I was looking at some of her recent work, and she had done well, I think, in the Mad Cave competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see why. And I thought, wow, she's really improved. I think she could do this. Let me reach out to her, which she did, and she responded, and we started talking. But yeah, Danny did a great job. It was weird because the script I had written like a couple years before, and I'm not the same writer, but I can't go ahead and completely rewrite because 2 issues had already been done.
Mm-hmm.
So I tweaked the script as much as I could, and then she brought her own thing to it, and it was great. She was able to, she changed some things, and I was like, great, do that. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And and we talked. She was wonderful to collaborate with. And I also had the pleasure of meeting her at San Diego Comic-Con. She
very
came
cool.
up from Mexico, yeah. And it's one of the rare times I get to meet one of my artists, and lovely, delightful young lady. When I get to the point where I can start writing the next BMS series, I'll probably be reaching out to her. But yeah, her and Katie Brown Katie was a colorist for all 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to keep Katie on so there was consistency throughout all 4 issues, because a different colorist would have just brought a whole different color palette. It would look weird. And everyone did a great job, and I think there's a nice segue. I don't think when people start going from the first 2 issues to issue 3 and 4, I don't think it'll be jarring. They'll go like, oh, it's a new artist, but we know who, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the transition's pretty smooth. I mean, that was my worst fear, is that transition would be a jolt.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. So you transitioned beautifully into that as well. Is the consistency of changing artists, how you can keep consistency in the art with so many artists over such a long running series? And you address that, and keeping the colorist, I'm sure, definitely does help that. But can you actually talk a little bit about how you've had to pivot and transition in dealing with different artists? Have there been difficulties as the creator and writer for you to be able to keep your consistency with communicating with the artists and learning new styles, to be able to continue on through the series?
Not really, mainly because when I hired the artist, we initially have a conversation, and I did the same thing with Alden for Morgana Pendragon. Is like, okay, how do you want suggestions on how, though there are some differences. It's like, hey, I will send you images of this and that. Danny also had the luxury of having all these issues before her, so she could use those as references.
Okay.
So she wasn't creating new characters. She was just creating pre-existing characters. So she had a lot of reference material right there, and I sent her everything. Katie has only been the colorist for Pikes Peak. Prior to that, Gwen Tavares for the standalone, she did the art and the coloring. So it's a very different look. But each artist, when you look at the characters, yeah, they look different, but you know who they are. They look close enough that it's Caitlin, it's Samuel, that it's Granville. So it's not jarring. But yeah, it's just all about communication, and I guess I've been doing this long enough that I just say like, hey, this is what I usually do. Do you need more from me? What do you need from me? And make sure they're ready to go.
Nice.
So you often offer great rewards and add-ons for your Kickstarter campaigns. What new or fan favorite items are you available this time around?
Fan favorite metal bookmarks! Yay!
Yeah, that's true. Well, also the lapel pins. I think it's expected now that every time I do a new Boston Metaphysical book that I do a new lapel pin. So this time I did one with Samuel's compound bow that he often uses in the fight with rays and demons and whatnot. And so we have a new lapel pin. And I just released a new add-on of the experimental stations. You can get a set of the metal bookmarks of the station in either copper, brass, or stainless steel.
Ooh.
They look so awesome.
That is, I think that's one of the advantages of having such a long-running series is that you can get these you've kind of set precedent to your rewards and what people expect.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because I know I have people who collect, they've been collecting the lapel pins forever. And I know people who have a full set because I retire some. We used to have a steampunk owl that's been retired for years. We used to have a bowler hat that's retired. The teapot and the teacup, that's retired. Although I think I may have 3 left here if somebody wants one. Somewhere.
I might be interested. Who knows?
Yes, I know Jen would be interested.
I know.
Did you see her face light up when she heard it?
She has a teapot tattoo.
I do.
Oh, okay.
It's right here.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, I see.
Very nice.
That is so cool. What's next for the series or the world of Boston Metaphysical Society after Mystery of Pikes Peak wraps up?
Well, that's a good question. I have some thoughts in my head, but nothing is written down yet. I have to finish Morgana 3 and 4 first.
Fair enough.
Yes, you do.
I have it outlined. Morgana 2 is done. It's actually being lettered right now.
Ooh,
nice.
Exciting.
So that'll be on Kickstarter in February. I have the final pass of the last 2 issues in the Lady Mechanica story that I have to do. I have to unpack. And, and then I'll get to that. So it's there.
It's got a bit of time left to cook.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we know that we will be continuing along on the journey at some point.
Yes, at some point. There's a lot to do right now, and yeah.
So,
and I need to get window treatment. So yeah.
You've already mentioned that you know of people who've collected the lapel pins over the years and who have been following you through so many successful Kickstarters. What would you like to say to both your longtime supporters and new backers just discovering Boston Metaphysical Society for the first time?
Well, first off is thank you. We wouldn't exist without you, or where we may exist, but we would not have gotten nearly as far and as fast as we have. That's all due to the backers, the longtime backers, and to the new backers. It's like, welcome to the ride.
And you have set it up so beautifully that all they have to do is get your hardcovers now, and everything is all wrapped up with a pretty little bow so that they can catch up very easily. And they soon will be beating down your door just as we are for what's coming next.
No, it was unfortunately it took this long to get the last 2 issues out. That was not my plan. Because of the hiccup with the artist, I did have to pivot business-wise, and that's why we have the hardbacks now.
Yeah.
Because I I'm not going to see the end of I'm not going to have art for I don't know when. Mm-hmm. So I pivoted and produced the hardbacks for volume 1 and volume 2.
Okay.
So that's why you have all the shininess for the hardbacks with the foil and the
yeah.
Well, they look amazing when we last saw them.
Yes.
So
worked out good for everybody.
It's like I knew when Pikes Peak wasn't, going to happen for a while. I just looked at my husband. I said, I guess we're doing the hardbacks.
Right, can you please share with our listeners where they can find you online and continue supporting Boston Metaphysical Society?
Sure. On Kickstarter right now, just look up Boston Metaphysical. We're running until November 13th in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. I'm also on Facebook, either Madeleine Holly-Rosing or Boston Metaphysical Society or Queen of Mercia, which is my overall company name. My website is queenofmercia.com. You can find me on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram as MC Holly1. And I think that's it.
Wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah, well, it's really great to have you on the show yet again and telling us all about the awesome projects you've been working on and the future projects you're hoping to release as well. Thank you so much for taking the time and being on our show. We really appreciate that. And that concludes this episode. We have been your hosts. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
And I'm Madeline. And be sure to like and subscribe.
Yay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.